Every life is given a portion, a length, a span, a weight of days. Once given, it is not revised. Manāt does not revoke what has been counted. The traveler waits longer than he intended to. He listens for something, anything that might suggest change, but the shrine remains still. And he begins to understand. Manāt is not silent because she has not heard him. Manāt is not silent because she has not heard him. She is silent because the question has already been answered. There is no realization of doom, no terror, only clarity. Manāt was present at his beginning, not watching and not judging, simply counting. The length of his breath was measured before he took his first. The number of times his name would be spoken was already known. The moment he would stand here, waiting, was never in doubt. She does not observe the end of lives. She witnesses the moment they are allocated. So the traveler lowers his head. He does not ask for more time. He does not plead. There is nothing left to say, because Manāt is not cruel. Cruelty implies choice. She is not merciful either. Mercy implies flexibility. She is final because she is precise. She's not merciful either. Manāt does not come for the living. She does not rise when death is near. She does not cross thresholds or lift veils. She has always been there. When the traveler leaves the shrine, the world continues as before. The caravan still moves, the market still hums, and the children still run. Nothing has changed, except the traveler now understands that continuation is not promised. It is allowance, and allowance is finite. Manāt remains unmoving, unarguing, and unimpressed by fear or hope. She does not need to appear in the end. She was present at the beginning. She does not need to appear in the end. Manāt, the one who does not arrive. The world still moves. Caravans cross the dust-choked roads. Merchants count their goods. Children run between shadows that have not yet learned to lean. Men sharpen blades and speak of tomorrow as if it's owed to them. Life assumes continuation. That assumption is why Manāt is never noticed first. Her shrine stands where motion slows, near graves, near the sea, where waves erase their own footprints. Near the edge of settlements where names begin to thin. It is not grand. It does not announce itself. It does not arrive. People come to Manāt only when they have already begun to suspect that time is no longer stretching forward the way it once had. A traveler arrives. He is not desperate, not yet. He believes there is still margin, that something can be delayed, negotiated, rearranged. He brings offerings, not to bargain, but because a habit insists that all powers must respond. He kneels, nothing happens. No wind shifts, no voice answers. No sign breaks the air. That is not neglect. That is Manāt. Among the peoples of pre-Islamic Arabia, Manāt was not feared as a destroyer. She was honored as the one who measured. She does not strike. She does not pursue. She does not arrive suddenly in the night. She assigns. She does not strike. Every life is given a portion, a length, a span, a weight of days. Once given, it is not revised. Manāt does not revoke what has been counted. The traveler waits longer than he intended to. He listens for something, anything that might suggest change, but the shrine remains still. And he begins to understand that Manāt is not silent because she has not heard him. Manāt is not silent because she has not heard him. She is silent because the question has already been answered. There is no realization of doom, no terror, only clarity. Manāt was present at his beginning, not watching and not judging, simply counting. The length of his breath was measured before he took his verse. The number of times his name would be spoken was already known. The moment he would stand here, waiting, was never in doubt. She does not observe the end of life. She witnesses the moment they are out of it. So the traveler lowers his head. He does not ask for more time. He does not plead. There is nothing left to say, because Manāt is not cruel. Cruelty implies choice. She is not merciful either. Mercy implies flexibility. She is final because she is precise. Manāt does not come for the living. She does not rise when death is near. She does not cross thresholds or live veils. She has always been there. When the traveler leaves the shrine, the world continues as before. The caravan still moves, the market still hums, and the children still run. Nothing has changed, except the traveler now understands that continuation is not promised. It is allowance, and allowance is finite. Manāt remains unmoving, unarguing, and unimpressed by fear or hope. She does not need to appear in the end. She was present at the beginning. Unimpressed by fear or hope. She does not need to appear in the end. She was present at the beginning. The origin of the five sons. Now this myth belongs to the Mexica people, often called the Aztecs. And these people understood time not as a straight path, but as a turning wheel. To them, the world did not begin once, nor was it destined to end only once. Creation was enacted repeatedly. Destruction was not a failure of the gods, but a condition of existence. And in this tradition, the world is sustained through balance, and balance is never permanent. When forces fall out of alignment, when power grows too rigid, when knowledge spreads beyond containment, or when the earth itself just grows weary, the age that holds the world comes to an end. What follows is not emptiness, but renewal. The Mexica calls each age a sun. A sun is not only the light in the sky, it is the order by which life is arranged. It governs how people live, how the gods rule, and how the earth responds to both. Each sun carries its own laws, its own expectations, and its own failures. Now, according to this cosmology, 4 suns rose and fell before this present age. Each was shaped by a different ruling force, and each ended when the force could no longer sustain the world it had made. These endings were not sudden accidents. They were the natural conclusion of imbalance left uncorrected. Now, the passing of the sun does not mean the death of everything. Life changes form. Memory does not entirely vanish. Traces remain in the land, in the sky, and in the people who come after. And for this reason, the present world is not separate from those that came before. It is built upon their remains. Now, the current age is known as the fifth age, the son of movement. It endures not because it is strong, but because it is fed. Its motion is constant, its ground uncertain. Unlike the world before it, this sun survives only through continuous offering, binding the fate of the gods and humanity together in a form of dependence. The 5 suns are not merely stories of the past. They explain why the earth moves, why catastrophe returns in cycles, and why stability must be earned again and again. To understand the suns is to understand that the world is not guaranteed. It is held together by effort, sacrifice, and restraint, and it can be unmade. What follows is the account of those suns, the worlds that rose, the forces that ruled them, and the ways in each one came to its own end. The first sun, the age of strength. Now in this world the earth was firm and unyielding, and the sky hung low, as if watching what walked beneath it. The people of the first sun were tall and powerful, shaped in the image of the force that ruled them. Their limbs were heavy with muscle, their voices carried far across the plains, and their hearts did not know hesitation. Now this sun was governed by Tezcatlipoca, the lord of the smoky mirror, whose power lay in dominance and reflection. Under his rule, strength was the highest virtue. To overcome another was proof of work. To stand unchallenged was to be favored by the gods. The people learned early that this world they belonged to could all be taken away from by the gods. The people learned early that this world they belonged to could all be taken away from and low to the ground. Their tools were heavy, their weapons simple and brutal. What mattered was not beauty, but endurance. What mattered was not harmony, but victory. In the first sun, order was maintained through fear. Those who rose to power held it by force, and those beneath them learned obedience through pain. The gods did not intervene to soften the world. They rewarded conquest and silence. Mercy was not taught, and restraint was not admired. The earth at first endured. The forest grew dense and dark. The mountains stood unbroken. Rivers cut their paths without resistance. Life was abundant, but it learned to hide. Creatures of claw and fang thrived, mirroring the nature of the people themselves. The world reflected what ruled it. Over time, the people of the first sun forgot the difference between strength and excess. To dominate was no longer enough. They sought to dominate everything. They hunted not for need, but for proof. They fought not for survival, but for sport. The weak were not protected, and the fallen were never remembered. The gods watched, and the mirror, Lipoka, darkened. The balance that sustained the sun began to strain. Strength unchecked turned inward. The people no longer listened to the earth, nor to the warnings carried by the wind. They believed the world existed to endure them. Then the jaguars came. They did not arrive as an invasion, nor as a punishment announced from the sky. They emerged from the forest, from the mountains, from places where the world itself remembered itself. Silence and patient, they moved as the earth moved, without anger and without hate. The jaguars were not beasts alone. They were the return of the world's will. Where the people struck hardest, the jaguars struck back. Where strength had been worshipped, strength was answered. Where the villages fell without warning. Paths once claimed by men were reclaimed by claw and shadow. The night grew longer and the ground drank deep. The people fought as they had always fought. They raised their weapons. They stood their ground. They believed that force could save them. It did not. For the jaguars did not retire. They did not seek glory. They did not rule. They corrected. One by one, the strong were taken. The cries of conquest gave way to silence. The earth closed over what remained. The forest thickened, the mountains stood as they had before, the sky lifted indifferent, and so the first sun ended, not in fire, not in blood, but in teeth and shadow. And so the first sun ended. When the jaguars withdrew, the world was empty of those who had ruled it. Strength alone had proven insufficient to sustain creation. The earth rested, and the gods turned away from what had been made. From the remains of that age, something memories buried in muscle and bone. A warning carried forth into the next world, that strength without restraint will always devour itself. The second sun, the age of wind. The second sun rose in a world that moved. Where the first sun had heavily pressed upon the earth, this new age loosened its grip. The sky lifted higher. The air blew restless. Winds crossed the lands freely, carrying seeds, voices, and memory from one place to another. The world no longer held still. This sun was governed by Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, whose nature was creation, breath, and renewal. Under his guidance, life was shaped not by force, but by movement. Change was welcome. Travel was praised. To remain in one place for too long was to resist the nature of the world. The people of the second son were lighter of body and quicker of thought. They spoke many languages, and none belonged to them for long. Names shifted with age. Borders were not fixed.